There's nobody better when it comes to presentations than Bruce Buffer. Number one, he gets paid a handsome amount for every single presentation he does. Number two, always dressed to impress. Number three, what's really unique to me is the energy is always there.
The number 5 ranked welterweight contender in the world, Michael Maverick Chiesa!
Now, I know he gets paid big bucks to do this, but you got to think about there was times where he didn't get paid big bucks to do this. And did he have the same exact enthusiasm? What brought him to this level? He's an excellent presenter, always gives great energy, always ready to go, always training, always prepared. He goes through a big process to get ready for these presentations. When I think about us as salespeople, I think that's what we do. We're presenters of our own type, and we should be on stage. I always said, like, great salespeople are great entertainers. Great salespeople are comedians. Great salespeople are great listeners. Great salespeople are great therapists. And all of this stuff that you do as a great salesperson should show up in your presentation. What's really sad and the opposite of that is there's a lot of salespeople that are not great presenters. There's a lot of salespeople that sound the same on every single presentation. There's a lot of salespeople that sound dead on their presentations. There's a lot of salespeople that don't get people excited for their presentations. And regardless of what you're selling, you should be passionate about what you're selling. That's level one. And if you're not passionate, you should pretend you're passionate because you can't sell something that you're not passionate about. And if you're passionate about it, the client will be passionate about it. But how do you show that passion? So today we're going to talk about everything presentations. I don't care what you do or what you sell. This will give you the formula for what you should do before your presentation, the main key points you should target and hit during your presentation, what you should do after your presentation, and then the follow-up and the follow-through thereon after. So welcome to the Bruce Buffer Sales Presentation Training. The first step to a great presentation, after a great introduction, and after building the relationship is going to be setting the stage. When I think about setting the stage, I think to myself, what are the things you do to prepare for a presentation? Because what's even more important than the presentation itself is the things you do to prepare for this presentation. So you want to establish control and you want to let the client or the prospect know we're about to go over the final numbers. We're about to go over the final presentation. This is where we go over the deal. It has to sound different than the rest of your call. And a lot of times I hear salespeople that'll just start presenting from a conversation, just start throwing numbers or going over the final figures, and the client's like, wait, is this, could you slow down? What did you say? And like, we ruin the whole presentation and make it like nonchalant part of the conversation when it's not going to be special if it's like this. So the first step to setting the stage before your presentation is to take control. The way I take control is I say, Jane, and this is like if you're calling back at work or if you're doing it all on one call at work, I'd say, Jane, give me a brief hold and I'll be right back with you. Let me get everything together for you. Everything looks great so far. Let me put all your goals together and customize a perfect solution. Put her on hold and come back, or I might call back if it's a 2-call. But I come back to the phone, the first thing I say is, Jane, I'm so excited for you. I got great news. Before you do anything, could you grab a pen and paper for me? What I'm doing right there is letting the prospect know we're about to go through some numbers. We're about to go through a presentation. We're about to go through something important. Pen and paper establishes control. There's been times where somebody doesn't have a pen and paper and I'll wait for them to get one. There's been times when somebody doesn't have a pen and paper and I'll screen share with them and type it out for them. There's been times when somebody doesn't have a pen and paper and I'll FaceTime them with a whiteboard behind me. Doing things that nobody else is doing, sharing your screen, FaceTiming somebody, pulling your whiteboard behind you. These are all things that are going to help you earn the business anyways. But just to keep it on an average basis for you, pen and paper. They say they got the pen and paper. I say, great. The next step is you want to squash objections. And I talk about squashing objections in the beginning, and I talk about addressing objections during the call. But the worst place for an objection to pop up is your presentation. It literally, you build the whole house, then the client gives you an objection, the whole house falls down, you get out of your confident state, now you're thinking about the objection, you're thinking how you could respond, and the whole sale is ruined. So this is kind of like a warranty buffer for me right before the presentation. After I ask for the pen and paper, I squash the objections, and that sounds like your biggest concern was, you wanted to talk to your husband about this, Jane, and you wanted to make sure he's on board. Is that right? Yeah. Then I say, well, if we were to tell your husband that we're able to accomplish A, B, and C, do you think he would be on board for this? Yes. Perfect. I wanted to make sure that's no longer a concern. You see, what I did right there is I addressed the objection, then gained her agreement why the objection's not important no more, and then squished it and pushed it to the side. That objection is now fully gone. And if you're talking about mortgages, let's say you're selling a refinance and you know the objection's going to be the interest rate. So I say, Jane, look, before we even get started here, I know you love your 2.99% interest rate. I love it too. It's a very strong strong interest rate. We talked about how the most important thing right now is not just that 2.99 interest rate, but it's actually the money that's coming out of your pocket and the money that's coming in your pocket every month, because you told me things are very stressful right now. And we agreed that's more important than any rate in the world, right? Yeah, perfect. I wanted to make sure that wasn't a concern. We're on the same page. Boom, pivot, move on to the next thing. Or it's like, Jane, so I know we talked about a lot of great things. I know that you really want to join the academy. You want to get the one-on-one coaching. Well, you told me the biggest obstacle for you is that upfront fee, right? Paying for 5 sessions upfront and a setup fee. That was too much for you, right? Yeah, I understand. It's a lot for a lot of people. We're in crazy times. That's the whole point of the coaching, is so you don't have to be concerned with a fee like this in the future because you're doing so well in your business. So what I did for you, I went ahead and I broke that up into payments for you. So that way the upfront fee shouldn't be a concern at all. Does that sound good? Yes. All right, perfect. I wanted to make sure that's not a concern before we go over the numbers. And I squash that and push it to the side. So like these are all examples of how you would squash an objection and put it to the side. The reason you do this is because you're pretty much saying like, hey, I'm about to present my offer. Make sure you don't hit me with this objection. I'm going to tell you why it's not important. We're going to agree on it. We're going to move on, and we're not going to come back to it. And it makes it a little more awkward and uncomfortable to go back to that same exact objection. Now, if your prospect does not have an objection, there's 2 ways to look at this. Number 1, do they really not have an objection, or they really didn't tell you the objection? Because I could tell you, if I paid you $10,000 on a phone call and I told you, look, this client never mentioned any objection, but I think you would know what the objection would be if they were to mention one. Could you guess what the client's objection would be? I think you, as a great listener and a great salesperson, you know, you're like, yep, this person's definitely a shopper. You hear somebody's tone, this person's definitely a waiter. You hear somebody else, this person's probably a tough cookie. We're judging clients all the time based on what they say, how they act, the way they sound. If we're doing that already, I want you to start thinking in your head, what could the potential objection be? Then try to squash it before your presentation. Then the other way to look at it, if you're like, no, Ace, they really loved everything, this is a guaranteed deal, there's not going to be a single objection, then just go for it. Skip that step and go for it. That's a great problem to have. A lot of people tell me like, why would you bring up the objections and the negative things before the presentation? Isn't that kind of making it negative? It's not. If I'm doing it in a smart way where I'm gaining agreement on it and I'm squashing it up front, then it's not really a negative thing to do. It's more negative for it to come out at the end of the presentation after I went over all the emotional goals and the connections to my product or service in the person's life. Then they hit me with cost, or I'm going to shop, or I'm going to talk to my wife. That kind of takes my whole presentation and the rhythm all the way down. So I'd rather go a little up and down in the beginning than start building it up, building it up, building it up, building it up, and then closing at the end. So that's why I bring it up front, because I want to address those things and squash them and make sure we have a clear road. It's transparency. I'm being very upfront with people. I believe in the product or service, and I think it really helps them. And then I take it right to the positive. And what's the positive? It's connecting to emotion. So we said, Jane, step number 1, great talking to you today. I really enjoyed getting to know you and your family. I think I got some phenomenal news for you. Do you have a pen and a paper before we get started? She gets that. I say, perfect. Before we do that, I know that your biggest concern was, your husband, Mike, you want to get him on board. He doesn't know you're talking to me yet. He doesn't know you're getting the new car. Doesn't know you're getting the new mortgage, whatever the sale is. He doesn't know, right? Yeah. Would you agree, after talking to me and you, that if we were to tell Mike that we're able to accomplish A, B, and C, you think we could surprise him with this? And you think he'd be pretty happy? Yeah, I do. Perfect. I wanted to make sure. Now, before we get into the pen and paper and the numbers, I want to make sure I have your goals in line. This is where I go into the emotion. I see your first goal, Jane, was you really want to have some flexibility in your life. You're sick of working overtime. You're sick of working weekends. You're sick of missing family dinners. Is that right? Yes, it is. I know. It's difficult. I've been there before. I wanted to make sure we have that goal aligned so we can make sure that we accomplish that for you first. Let's say we're doing coaching. Your second goal was you want to make sure that you never have a month again where you feel like you're not worthy, you never made enough, and you wasted 60 hours a week to make a couple $1,000 because you're sacrificing your life for a check that's not worth it, and you never want to feel that again, right? Yeah, perfect. I wanted to make sure we're on the same page with that because that's difficult and that's hard. And I know how it feels like to work hard and not get what you're worth, and we never want you to feel that again. And the third one, let's say you're talking about a car. And lastly, you're sick of your 3 kids squished together in the back of your Honda, fighting all the time for who gets window. You want to have a truck that has captain seats, that has room. You guys could take road trips, save money on the airplane rides, take a road trip, enjoy it, feel pride driving it. You said that was super important to you, right? Yeah, beautiful. I know it is. I know what it feels like to drive a shitty car. I know what it feels like to drive a nice car. And I know that a nice car helps me accomplish more because the way you feel is the way you're going to move through your life. And if you feel a lot better, you're going to move a lot better through your life. So let's get you that car. All right, beautiful. Those are your 3 goals, Jane. I want to let you know with a lot of confidence and a smile on my face, I was able to accomplish all 3. You got the pen and paper for me? Let's get started. All of that right there is not even the presentation. That's literally 3 to 4 minutes of preparing and setting the stage for the presentation. Are you doing that on your phone calls? That's the first question I want to ask you. And I know it sounds easier said than done. A lot of us are like, yeah, well, I'm kind of in a rush. A client's in a rush. Like, no, they're in whatever the hell you put them in. If you're in a rush, a client's in a rush. If you don't think this is important, the client won't think this is important. And a lot of times we don't think this is important because we don't have the 3 emotional goals. We don't know the objections to squash them because we're not actively listening. So again, I tell you, you could only do this if you're creating a great relationship, actively listening. Then you could squash the objections, connect to the emotions, and then get somebody ready for the presentation. So what do I do when I have the pen and paper? If you've seen this movie, it was a great movie, right? Legendary one. Left side, strong side. The left side, I always do the T-chart play. And I know a lot of us think like the T-chart is out of whack or it's old. Look, it's worked for me for like 15 years. I've used it in different industries. It works. So the first thing I say, Jane, with that pen and paper, do me a favor. Go ahead and draw for me a T-chart, okay? 2 columns T-chart. She's like,
Okay, Alex, I drew you the T-chart.
all right, now on the left side, I want you to put your current situation. And on the right side, I want you to put new life. And then I always ask, did you write that down?
Yeah, Alex, I got it.
All right, perfect. So you got new life, current situation on both of those sides. Let's go over what's currently happening right now. This is where I address the client's life right now. If they're looking to purchase a home, I say right now you're currently renting a home, paying $3,000 a month. Write that down for me. Renting equals $3,000. Let's say they're refinancing a house. I say right now you're paying $600 on your car. Write that down for me. $300 on your credit card. Write that down for me. $200 on your student loan. Write that down for me. $100 on this. Write this down for me. If it's a refi, I'll make them add up all their debts and write down every single one. And the reason for that is because if you just tell them I'm paying off all your debts or you're going to save this much, it's not the same as them actually feeling it. How do they feel it? Well, we talked about it before. There's kinesthetic learner, visual learner, audio learner. You're talking to them. I also want them to feel it by writing it. And I also want them to see it after they write it. I want to attract all 3 learners. So I make sure I'm touching all the points of my client's emotions and making sure that I'm getting them in the right emotional state to move forward and make a decision on this now. So when this ends, I know I couldn't have done anything else better to get this deal. So again, if it's a purchase, I'll be like, you're renting right now. Then I'll start applying the pain points. You see pain points down here? You're renting right now. People are yelling next door to you. There's parties going on in your thing. You're not happy with your kids there. I just write down all the pain points. Have them write it down so they can think of the negatives one more time. If it's a refi, you're spending this much, this much, this much, this much. In total, it's about $3,300. You told me you only have about $500 in the bank right now. 3 kids, write that down for me. If it's a car, I'd say like you told me right now that you have that small car. The 3 kids are packed in it. You spent already $23,000 in total on that car and it's still giving you problems. Write that down for me. If it's coaching for the academy on the left side, I say, you told me right now you're working 60 hours a week. You're grinding, and you're still bottom 5 in the company. You're barely making enough to pay your bills. At this point, you can make more working at a regular job. Write that down for me. You made $3,000 the last 3 months. Write that down for me. $9,000, about like $9 an hour if we really break it down. Write that down for me. I know it hurts, but I also want to show you what's possible. Just want to get a clear understanding of where we're at right now. So that's all the left side is. Pretend the left side is just what are the pain points in their current life right now and how could you highlight those on the left side? Now again, don't do it like an ass and say like, right now you're broke. Right now you got a shitty ass car, right? I'm not saying that. I'm saying right now things have been very tough for you. We're driving around that car. It's giving you problems. You told me you spent about $33,000. Write that down for me. Like you see how my voice sounds? I'm not coming off as like a robot or a salesperson. I'm coming off like I care. I care about the person and I want them to do well. So that's the left side. I get all the negative pain points written down on that left side. Then I say, all right, you got that all down for me? Do me a favor and draw me a big X across that whole side. What? Yeah, you heard me. Draw me a big X across that side. Okay. I drew a big X across the side. Perfect. That's the last time you're going to have to deal with any of that bullshit ever again. Are you ready to get to the good news? Think about that as a statement. Write down all the bullshit. Like right now, like side note, forget this training. Right now, if you write down every single negative thing happening in your life, fighting with this person, I owe this person money, I'm behind on this. Then I told you, write those things down, look at them, put a big X on those things. You're never ever going to have to deal with that bullshit again. How would that make you feel? You'd be like, this guy's serious? And roll. And that's what we're doing for our clients. We're telling them, write down everything that's currently going on in your life right now, then put a big X through it. Let me show you how we're going to solve for all of that. And that's when we get to the right side, which I call Mr. Bright Side. Okay? Right side. I'm like, all right, I want you to go over to your new life. Let's say we're talking about a purchase. I got you approved for $420,000. Write that down. Now I know that you only wanted about $350,000. I gave you a little extra cushion just in case. You never know. You might be having a third kid in the future. I know renting renting that apartment, it was small for you. This will get you something in like the 2,500 square feet range, according to the area. That's what I'm looking at. And I want to make sure that it has the backyard that you want because I know how much barbecues are important for you. So write that down for me. Also, I was able to get you an interest rate locked in at around 6%, which is absolutely crazy because if this was a month ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, probably would have been closer to 7 or 8%. If this is a refinance, I'd say, remember on the left side, we said you're spending about $4,300 a month on all your debts. I want you to write this number down for me. $1,200. Okay. What do you think that number is? My new payment? No, it's not your new payment. I'm not a magician. That's actually how much you're saving every single month when we knock out all these debts. Write down this for me. All right. $14,400. What's that? That's actually how much you're saving every single year. And write down this for me as well. 70,000 plus. What's that? That's how much you're saving in 5 years. Think about that for a second. If it's about a car, I want you to write this down for me. Write down 7 on the right side. 7? Yeah. You have 7 new seats in this truck that I just got you approved for. No more worrying about the 3 seats in the back. Your kids all squished back there. You got so like the right side is where you highlight the bright side. You tell them how their new life's going to look after your service. If it's the academy, I say write down for me 40. 40, what does that mean? You're never going to work 40 hours a week again after 30 days of training with me. And that's my promise. And you'll make more than what you make right now. How's that going to feel with the extra 20 hours a week back in your schedule? It's going to feel amazing. I know it is. The second thing I want you to write down is golfing. You're going back golfing. That's your passion. That's what you want to do. You haven't golfed in 8 months. We're not here to slave and work 80 hours a week and not enjoy our life. I'm getting you back to golfing. Write that down and put in an appointment. In 30 days, we're going to book that for you. We're getting you back into the golf club. Third thing, vacation. Last 2 weeks of December, you're taking off work. We're taking you on vacation. These are the 3 things I'm going to promise you through the coaching and through what you're going to do in the next 60 days after the coaching. So like I'd go to the right side, bright side. And that's where like you want to connect the emotions, connect exactly what you heard through the act of listening and do a custom tailored touch presentation for them. Now they're writing all this stuff down. They're feeling it. They're happy. They're looking. They're smiling. They're like, wow, golfing again? Yes, golfing again. And I'm not even saying that as a jerk. I'm really saying that because I really want to help somebody go golfing again. If that's their thing and that's what floats their boat, let's get them golfing. If it's a refinance and I know it's saving $14,000 a year, I know they have 0 in the bank, then I'm like, look, year 1, you'll have $14,000 in the bank. Year 2, I want you to write down Sweden. Yeah, you told me you haven't been to Sweden, you and your family want to go. Look, by year 2, you're saving enough money, take your family to Sweden for Christmas. Year 3, I want you to write down investment home. What do you mean? Look, by year 3, you're going to have enough money saved if you religiously take that money and save it and not open up any more credit cards, which you're not going to need. By year 3, get an investment home, man. Start building your real estate. You want to retire in 7 years? So now I'm pinpointing your, like, look, the best way to present, especially if you do mortgages and you're doing refinances, but if you do anything, is instead of one single presentation, do like a 3-year plan or a 5-year plan. And the only way you could give somebody a 3-year plan of benefits or a 5-year plan of benefits and goals is if you went that deep in the conversation to even establish those goals. So like that would be a big task for you. I try to do at least half of my presentations are 5-year plans for people, whether that's in the academy, whether that's in mortgages, whether that's in consulting, whether that's in recruiting, whatever it is. Like right now I'm hiring people. Where do you want to be in 1 year? Where do you want to be in 3 years? Where do you want to be in 5 years? I'm storing all of that data. I want to get them to those points. So like this is important in everything you do, but specifically sales, your presentation. So again, so far we said set the stage, okay? Recap, objections, squash, connect to emotion. Then we said go over the left side in the current situation, which is a painful side. Okay, left side is a pain side. Go through all the pain points of what they're currently doing right now. Have them write it down on a T-chart. Go to the right side, which is a bright side. Then I want you to get as specific as possible to put all the new things that are happening in their life. And you could choose those as a salesperson. I trust you. You don't got to be like, well, Ace, what exact 3 things do we got to put on the right? And what exact 3 things would you put if you're in this situation? Like, we don't got to go that deep right now. You know what 3 things you put on the left? The 3 shittiest things that the client doesn't want to feel anymore. And you know what you put on the right? The 3 things the client wants to feel the most. You choose those things. I don't care what you write down. And that's the right side. All right, after they're writing this whole right side down, I'm like, perfect. And then we assume the close. But before we get into assuming the close, I want to remind you of something. When you're a great salesperson, everything sounds good. And I say that because I hear salespeople sometimes that are iffy or like, oh, you're self-employed. We're going to need a lot of stuff for that. Like, what the are you saying? Or like, yeah, and then, you know, there is something, we're going to need a deposit. You know, I wish I could control it. It's something I can't control. It's out of my hands. Like, what the are you saying? You're making the deposit sound bad. You're making your deal sound bad. You're making the paperwork sound bad. Like, as a great salesperson, everything has to sound good. I don't say your total costs are. I say, look, the great news about your costs is they're only going to be blah, and you only have to pay blah up front, which is perfect because blah, 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 blah. I don't say your interest rate is this. I say, look, your interest rate, pretty amazing. It's only going to be this. In this kind of market, it's going all the way up to 8-9%. I got you down here, almost the lowest rate on the market. And if it ever drops again, I'm going to help you get beautiful rate for you. Pivot, take control to the next thing. If I'm talking about the payment, let's say someone's taking cash out and their payment's going up. I say, look, usually I was expecting the payment to go up like $1,000 a month. Your payment's only going up $400 a month. That's nothing for $60,000. It's a beautiful deal. I was actually shocked. So everything has to sound good. If it's a purchase, look, and your down payment, I thought it was going to be about 25 grand. I got your down payment down to 13,000. You have 18 in the bank. That's perfect. You could leave 5,000 in the bank just for a cushion because it's a crazy world. Everything is sounding good no matter what's happening. Look, I know you wanted that Yukon. Here's the thing, man. The Yukon, it's too expensive. I'm not going to make you pay $900 a month for that thing. Instead, we're going to get the Ford Explorer, which has the same exact space. We're going to cut the price in half. It actually worked out perfect for you. Everything has to sound good regardless of what you're selling. Look, I know you want to do the coaching sessions. At this price, I really can't do it at that price anymore. The good news for you is I swear to you, the only reason I raised my price because the last 3 people that I work with, I tripled their profit. Like, if it makes you even feel better, I'll give you a guarantee on this. After one session, if you don't like it, I'll refund you the rest. Like, I'm not here to play any games, and I promise you this is a good problem to have because it means what I'm doing is working. Like, everything has to sound good for people. So don't be the salesperson that's iffy or that's thinking or scratching their head or lets the client sense any form of hesitation. Even in process, if you do loans in process, like, I hear people that they're like scared to call somebody if something bad happens in process. Like, I call somebody and say, look, I'm pissed off right now. Why? Your appraisal came in $40,000 lower than what we expected. What kind of horse shit is that, John? Yeah, I know. What do you mean? What's that going to do? I mean, look, that was the bad news. I mean, the good news is we can still get this done for you. It looks like I'm still going to get you about $28,000 instead of $40,000. We're still paying off those debts. I mean, everything's great. I just want to let you know that appraisal pissed me off, but everything still looks good. We're closing next week. Like, that's the way I'd pitch that. It's not even a question. It's like, hey, I'm pissed off. This happened. No worry. We're still good. I don't know. Throw in some questions. If you guys have any questions of things that you can make sound good that are bad, I'll make everything you tell me right now sound good if you have anything. But everything should sound good. Every single line, sentence, breath that you say in your presentation needs to sound good. It has to sound good. So hopefully that makes sense. If you were to audit yourself, does every single one of your sentences sound good? Then everything connects. This is my favorite one. I always used to tell my team, when I had a team in mortgage banking at Rocket, I used to give them this signal. It doesn't mean you in Albanian or whatever people think it means. This signal here means connect. Okay. And what I mean by connect, when somebody's doing a presentation, I always give them this signal, which means connect to something emotional for the client. Meaning they say, yeah, you get to skip your first payment. Like, no, you get to skip your first payment. Connect. You get to skip your first payment, which is perfect because you told me last year you didn't have the best Christmas. And now this year you're going to have an extra $1,500 to spend on gifts. You think that's going to be good for your 2 kids? Perfect. I thought it would be too. It's not just an escrow refund. It's an escrow refund, which is actually great because you got about $3,200 in there and you could use that for Bobby's birthday next month. Give him a good birthday this year. It's been rough for you guys for the last couple of years. I figured you'd enjoy it. Like, you see that small example of somebody just selling an escrow refund or a skip payment to sell it compared to me coming up with it in a box with a ribbon on it and saying, here, you know, you deserve this and do this with this, and it's connecting to something else. That's what I mean by everything connects. The great news is I got you approved to shop for a house in the, you know, segments of $400,000, which is perfect because I know you wanted $500,000, but the $400,000 actually keeps you exactly in your payment range, which is where you want it to be because you didn't want to work overtime. Like, boom, that's like 3-4 points connecting, making a bad sound good, connecting it to their payment, connecting it to their comfort and their emotional sweet spot of not having to work too late. Everything should connect. You know what I love most about this truck? Look how the seats go down. You told me you guys do camping trips. When you guys do your next camping trips, forget about the tents. You're sleeping in this bad boy with the air condition on. Everything has to connect. And the great news is about the Academy, I know, man, you don't like to spend time on your computer. You're on it all day at work. We have an app on your phone. That's perfect because while you're working out, I want you to listen to the trainings. Prime your mind with that shit. And now I'm connecting it to somebody working out in their life and their time. So I hope you get what I'm saying by everything sounds good, but everything also connects. Like, if I just say you're saving $200 a month, doesn't sound good. But if I say, look, you're saving $200 a month, which is good because your overtime right now is about $50 a week, those couple of extra hours. I want you to think about those couple of extra hours. If you could get that time back in your life and go visit your daughter, visit your son. You told me how how important family is. You haven't been visiting them. I just gave you 3 hours back a week. Like, what's more important, $200 or 3 hours back a week to visit your family who's not going to be around forever? So everything has to connect to a bigger picture. Everything has to connect to the client's emotional benefits. And if you're like, well, my presentations usually never connect, you're doing it wrong. And I'm telling you, you're doing it wrong because you're not feeling it. If you get shopped a lot and you get a lot of objections, you're not making everything connect. You're not making everything sound good. And you're not taking the presentation as serious as this. So everything must connect.
And then it's not like, yeah, so do you see any reason we can't move forward today? Or yeah, so the deposit, or yeah, so if everything looks good, you okay with me to move on to the next steps? Or yeah, so can I send you out the documentation in black and white?
It's none of that. After I go over the left side and right side and I say, all right, great, Nancy, so it looks like, let's just recap here. We're getting rid of all your pain points of having to work overtime, the car not fitting your kids, not being able to travel. The new program's going to be saving you this much a month. The payment's very comfortable. I made sure to keep it in your budget, and it's exactly what you and your husband wanted. I mean, this couldn't have worked out better. Here's what I need you to do. Boot up your computer. Let me tell you what documents I need from you. I'm strictly going into assuming the close with so much confidence that the client just goes with me, right? But again, Bruce Buffer doesn't come out at the end without building himself up. So there was still a first call built up and a relationship built up and a brand built up and the emotions built up and the presentation built up, which all lead to the very confident closing at the end. Like if the client says, yeah, okay, I already know it's a deal. If the client's like, wait, hold up, wait, go back there, what'd you say? And they're asking a lot of questions. I know if they're gonna ask questions. Like you could already tell and gauge where they're going through their voice and their inflection and tone while you're talking to them. So I assume the close right away. If that doesn't work and they say, well, Alex, I'm not ready to move forward. All right, well, let's go back to it. You know, we accomplished A, B, and C for you. You told me your biggest concerns were this. I addressed those concerns. Here's why they don't matter. What is it that we're still thinking about? Just so I'm on the same page as you. Well, still about this. Oh, the price. Remember we talked about that. A, B, C, A, B, C, A, B, C, A, B, C, move on. So like a lot of times they'll give you the same objection. You just squash it again. And if they're like, yeah, but there's no way in hell I can move forward right now. I just need some more time. Just give me at least till tomorrow morning. That's fine. Then I go ahead and pull up my email and I do the same exact thing in the email. I'll say, hey, Nancy, thanks so much for taking my call today. Just wanted to recap where we left off. You told me your biggest concerns were this, your biggest goals were this. Here's what we're accomplishing. Here's the documents I need. Let me know tomorrow morning when you're ready. I will literally do the whole presentation in an email again, CC the spouse, put a picture of in Europe in there and send it to them just like that and spend another 10 minutes crafting a perfect email because that's unreasonable hospitality. Nobody else is making an email like that. So I'll make an email like that. I'll end up getting the deal from the email. I'll wake up in the morning with documents. There's not many times I'm getting shopped when I'm doing a presentation like this and building the call up this way, except if they're a real stickler, which I probably know from before, and they're just looking for the cheapest penny, which is a whole different type of sale for that person. For the majority of the clients, they appreciate a custom white box presentation. Everybody wants something custom tailored to them. Nobody wants something that just everybody gets. Like, here's your numbers, here's how it works, blah, blah. No, here's why this works for you. Here's what you do with this. Here's what that connects to. Here's why it looks good in 3 years. Here's why I didn't do that for you. Here's why I did do this. Everything has to be custom tailored, custom touch. Everything sounds good and everything connects. I'm going to give you 3 rules if you want to do this the right way. If you go back to my boy Bruce Buffer, and if you don't know him, just look him up on YouTube. But 3 rules that apply to him and apply to me. Number 1, your feelings. All right. There's going to be days where you don't want to do this. There's going to be days where like you don't, like right now, I don't feel well. You guys hear me? Like, I don't know what I'm catching. Hopefully nothing. I'll do an ice bath to numb it off, but I don't feel well. I still have to come out here and perform well every single time. So I say, my feelings. Doesn't matter how I feel. I got people on this call waiting for me. I got a client on the phone waiting for me. None of my feelings matter. So I turn my feelings off. The only feelings that matter are your feelings, are the client's feelings, are the emotions in which it takes to win the day, win the deal, win your goals. Those are the feelings that matter. So you have to get to a state where it's like, look, doesn't matter how you feel or what's going on. You have to perform. Bruce Buffer always performs. Doesn't matter if he's in China, Africa, Lebanon, America, 6 in the morning, 3 in the morning, time zone change. 10 years from now, I don't know, he's probably in his 60s right now. The guy's performing. His feelings didn't matter. He performs regardless. If it's Sunday, Monday, late call, early call. Going on to the second photo. Look, the only way you could churn off your feelings and only count the feelings that matter for your client is if you stop prejudging. Stop prejudging. I'm so sick of people saying, and I'm sorry if anybody on the call gets offended because I'm offended by it as well. And that's why I'm saying I'm so sick of people saying,
oh, did you hear his voice? Oh, it's Indian. Oh, it's it's this person. Oh, it's this, that.
Like, we gotta stop prejudging people. Like, if you can't originate somebody because of their culture, because they're Indian, for example, you're not a great salesperson. I could probably count 100 Indians that I've done loans for, 100 Arabs that I've done loans for, Jews, Christians, everybody. You can't prejudge anybody. And I keep hearing prejudging or like, no, this guy right here, man, he wasn't a relationship kind of guy. The you mean he's not a relationship kind of guy? You're saying that person would have never enjoyed you learning their goals and customizing an option for their goals? Or was it that you're not a relationship guy? Was it because they're Indian, or is it because you suck and you don't know how to talk to people? So we got to stop prejudging. Or like, no, this one here, this one's going to shop regardless. Like, just because you said they're going to shop regardless, they're going to end up shopping regardless. Don't you understand? You're affirming their actions and putting it into existence. So we have to stop all the prejudging and say, whatever this scenario is, which leads me to my third photo, I'm going to do a factory line process. The box hits the factory. The first line is strong brand, strong introduction. The box goes to the next lane. It's if they give an objection, slash it, respond with value, pivot, and take control. Box goes to the next lane. I'm building a relationship the same exact way every single time. Going deep, emotions, laughs, cries, sharing stories, getting stories, opening doors, everything that it takes to build a relationship. Box goes to the fourth row. I'm preparing for the presentation and setting the stage. Box goes to the fifth row. I'm pitching left side with the pain points, right side with the pleasure points, and assuming the close. Box goes to the eighth row. I'm closing and sending that email out every single time. And you see my factory line process doesn't change regardless of how I feel or what kind of client it is. So if you apply these 3 rules to your sales, you'll double and triple your sales right now, guaranteed. Number 1, turn off your feelings. It's not about your feelings. It's about the client's feelings and the feelings it takes to win the deal. Number 2, stop prejudging. It's not because they're Indian. It's not because they talk fast. It's not because they're not a relationship person. It's not because they're dry. It's not because they're a shopper. It's because you're putting all of that shit into existence and you're not changing the outcome. And lastly, it's a factory line process. Like, you create a process that works and you follow it every single time. People ask me about my Bonzo all the time. How does your automation for texting and calls work? You know why it works? It's a factory line process. Bonzo doesn't have feelings. Bonzo sends a text out for me this way. Then when they go and process, it sends this. Then when they go here, it sends that. And they go there, it sends that. It's a factory working. It's automation. And I try to be automated without being automated. And it's not called automation. It's called discipline. What do you call automation when there's no automation? You call it discipline. And discipline is turning off your feelings, not prejudging, and treating every single deal like it's a factory line process. We started with Bruce Buffer. We're also going to end with Bruce Buffer. Okay. I asked Bruce Buffer to make my son a video for his first birthday party. And here's what he sent me.
And now, on this very special day, a very special young man was born. June 6th, 2020. And now this is the moment we've all been waiting for. Standing 3 feet 3 inches tall, weighing in at 32 pounds, hailing from Lebanon and Albania, presenting the champion of the world. It's time! Happy birthday, Eli! The Eli!
Yo! That shit still pumps me up till today. Did the guy give me the same exact energy that he gives on stage? Yes. Did he change because he was in his comfortable clothes in his office at home? No. Be the Bruce Buffer of your craft. Factory line process. Don't prejudge. Turn off your feelings and turn on the feelings it takes you to get the win. And be somebody that takes this feedback and applies it to your business right away. Right now, you should write down those steps. And the next presentation you have, you try it in this light and I guarantee you success. Thank you guys so much. Have a great rest of your night. I'll catch you guys next week.